Welcome and thank you for tuning in to the very next episode of the Cougar Spotlight Podcast, wherever you may be and however you may be listening or watching on the CACC Network or on our Caldwell Athletics YouTube page. I am Nick Iacovo, the host of Cougar Spotlight. We got an awesome show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about baseball. I'm going to give my thoughts on that. We're going to have another episode of our rapid fire previews, giving another look into what we've got coming up here at Caldwell Athletics. But first and foremost, let's talk about the biggest headliner news coming out of Caldwell Athletics, which is Caldwell's women's basketball program. I've been saying for so long, this is a history-making team. And they certainly have made history, as Caldwell recently defeated the number 3 seed Chestnut Hill at home. It's the first home playoff game Caldwell's had since 2019. And it's the first home win Caldwell has had in the postseason, and actually, full stop, the first playoff win Caldwell has ever had in the postseason since 2018. They had a home win in 2018, home win in 2025. It was the last time Caldwell has ever won a game in the postseason. As they advance now to the semifinals on this Saturday, will they be taking on the number 1 seed Jefferson Rams. In that game against Chestnut Hill, looking at my stat sheet here, Janelle Lewis finished with 24 points, was 9 of 16 from the field, playing 38 minutes. Lucy Coogan was unstoppable, putting up 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists. Sophia DeMuro was absolutely incredible, 9 points with 15 rebounds, also included a block and a steal, playing around 36 minutes. Caldwell shoots 36% from the field, and it's the first home playoff win, as I stated, since 2018. Janelle Lewis finished with the most minutes played out of any player in that game. Second was Nasa Aguilar, a guest that we had on the show last week, where she would record 36 minutes. First of all, the environment in the Newman Center was absolutely electric on Tuesday. It was incredible. From the moment the game tipped off, the crowd were super into the game. And it wasn't always pretty. It didn't look good at the very, very start. There was definitely a lot of jitters, a lot of playoff kind of, let's get back into the feeling of the game. But you got to give credit where credit is due. Caldwell put on a performance, and particularly in the second half, it was an absolute clinic as the Cougars walked away with a double-digit 61-51 win over Chestnut Hill, avenging the previous game where Caldwell would lose in the final seconds, where they would lose on a late free throw. Caldwell now advances to the semifinals for the first time since 2018, and they are playing a tough task in Jefferson. The last time Cougars played the Rams, it wasn't good out of conference and a very tough loss. But then the time before that, Cougars played well. They played well against the Jefferson Rams. On February 8th, they would lose by 3, 45-48. So there's definitely a feeling that Caldwell can certainly play with the Rams. The Rams have gotten extremely healthy. They've been a team that's been plagued with injuries all season long. And now they're getting healthy, but Caldwell's also getting healthy. So I think maybe the injuries could even out. But I said this was a history-making team, and I meant that. I stated they haven't won a playoff game since 2018. I've said it multiple times. But Caldwell also has not beaten Jefferson since 2018. I went back and checked. The last time Caldwell beat Jefferson was 2018, February 17th, 2018, the date to be exact. The last time Caldwell beat Jefferson on the road was in 2015. 2015 was the last time Caldwell beat Jefferson on the road. So needless to say, there is going to be a lot of eyeballs on this. I have full confidence in that Caldwell can beat the Rams, but I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a walk in the park. There's going to be a lot of things that need to get done. First of all, I think Janelle Lewis needs to play as well as she did on Tuesday. Lucy Coogan needs to be as dominant as ever. Again, they're going up against the player of the year in Cassie Murphy, who is just an absolute freak offensively. So Caldwell's going to have its hands full. But I think also Caldwell's going to have to do is get some output from the bench. In that Chestnut Hill game, again, they had very efficient scoring throughout. Caldwell did not have a single point come off the bench. I think the Cougars are going to need some bench production if they want to beat the Rams. I think defensively, Caldwell matches up really, really well, actually, with the Rams. I think the strength of the Rams has been their down-low presence, and I think Caldwell really, with Coogan and DeMuro down there, I think can really do some damage and kind of limit what Jefferson could do, but you can't count on perimeter play. And I think Caldwell defensively can do really good things against the Rams. But I'm excited. It's the first semifinal game Caldwell has had in 6 years. And there's going to be, as I said, a lot of eyeballs. As I was walking into the studio today, the women's team was getting on the bus, getting ready to drive down to Philadelphia. And again, Caldwell's playing on enemy turf, even though Jefferson is the host site for all the playoff games in the postseason. For the Rams, this is going to be a home game. And Caldwell, I think, knows that. And I think if they can get out early and they can keep the production going, if they play as well as they did in the second half against Chestnut Hill, and if they play well as they did in the first half, especially against Dominican, they combine the two of those. Look out, Rams, because the Cougars are coming to play. We'll see how they can match up. Cougar Spotlight Podcast will be coming back in just a few short moments. I'm going to be giving my thoughts on baseball and the red-hot start Nick Luciano has gotten this squad out to, and then I'll be giving my previews for other sports. Don't go anywhere, folks. Welcome back to the Cougar Spotlight Podcast. Let's now transition. I recently just gave my thoughts on the women's basketball program and how excellent they've been this season, and the preview a little bit of what they're going to do against Jefferson. But now I want to talk about the red-hot team right now at Caldwell. And I haven't said this in a long time. Caldwell's baseball program is absolutely terrific. Good Lord, I had the chance to call their game yesterday, being Thursday, as obviously I'm recording this on Friday. Their baseball program is absolutely outstanding. They are 3-1 currently as it sits. They are playing a game today at 5 o'clock. Again, as I'm recording this on a Friday, as the episode will be posted on Saturday, they'll be playing Staten Island today. They're traveling down, and then Staten Island comes back up to Caldwell for a doubleheader on Saturday. First game is at 3 o'clock. Caldwell's 3-1 to start off the season. They've scored 5+ runs in each game this season. In fact, there's only one game where they haven't scored 7 runs. They've outscored their opponents so far 30-23 runs. 4 players on this roster have 6 hits already. And the star of the show has to be their new head coach, although he's been in the program for a while, Nick Luciano. He recently achieved his first home win. He achieved his first win in his first game as a head coach. He achieved the first win there. On Thursday, he achieved his first home win as Caldwell would dismantle Queens College 11-8. At one point, Caldwell was tied at 6. It was tied at 6 apiece. Then Cougars would take the lead. They would go up 7-6. Then the Knights would take the lead back to make it 7-8. And then Caldwell just absolutely unloaded and would take a monster lead. Christian Patino Jr. and Akash Santiago hit 2 monster 2-run homers. Santiago hitting the go-ahead home run to get the Cougars the lead that would eventually they will hold on to. Having the chance to watch that game, the biggest difference that I see from last year's roster to this year, 100%, is energy. It is 1,000% the energy. These players are fired up. Fired up. And I've always known this. Again, I called a lot of the baseball games last year. And watching this team, I can tell you straight up, they have a lot of juice, particularly at the plate. They've got some studs at the plate. But whether it was schematic, whether it was just energy level, whether it was just pitching matchups, something felt off about the way that they were at the plate. You're now seeing just unbelievable stuff. You got players with batting averages at 500, 464, 462, 416. It's just, these players are knocking the ball out of the park. Again, 4 players already through 4 games have 6 hits. 6 hits already, 3 home runs on this roster. And it's not always pretty. I just said it a little bit with the women's basketball program, and it reigns true here. It's not always pretty. Still some things to improve upon, particularly in the field, as watching the game on Thursday. Some fly balls that kind of got lost in transition. Little bit of getting your aces back up to speed. But I got to tell you, baseball has created some stars. Sean Brown, last season, was an all-conference performer at second base. He's just as good and just as productive this year. Stephen Young Jr. is absolutely terrific in right field. And a new superstar has been made, John Regas. He established himself as a closer. He leads the Cougars right now in ERA. He came in the top of the 8th and was just dominant from the moment that he stepped up there. He was absolutely dominant. And that's what I think the Cougars have need. I've always have said this. I said the strength of this Caldwell team has always been about their ability in the field. They just have needed some work in the bullpen. They got it now. They've got some good stuff in the bullpen. They got an established closer. You're still finding out the aces. I'm not really too worried about the ace since it's still very early in the season. But you got your closer. And you're going to need that, particularly at this stage in the season. You need to establish a closer. You now got Regas as a closer. You get Brandon Scalesi, who's been absolutely terrific on the mound. He was a CACC all-academic team member last year. He's back. He's looking just as great. And again, they've improved. Their shortstop play has been terrific. Their work in the infield is tremendous. You still got dependables. You got Patino in center field. You got Liam Lombardi in left field. Stephen Young Jr., as I said, out in right field. Caldwell has got a lot of ball players on this roster, and we haven't even seen a lot of other big performers because they've been dealing with injuries, and Caldwell has been looking terrific. The speed that this team was playing on Thursday was out of this world. Out of this world. It's like 2 different teams from last year. So credit to Nick Luciano. He's getting the most out of this roster at this very early stage. And I got to tell you, it's very, very fun to watch. And baseball has always been a sport that I've held close dear to me. Baseball is one of my favorite sports. And I've always wanted a fun and exciting team. You got it in the CACC and this Caldwell baseball team. They are fun to watch. And they've been playing really well. Hopefully they could keep it up, push it towards the end of the season. I genuinely said this. If that game had an extra 5 minutes to it, there's a very strong chance Caldwell could have walked away with a win. They very much could. If they keep that energy that they had in the second half and they transition it throughout the end of the season, you're getting players like Zapata who's getting multiple goals. Your defense will step it up big. I think there's a very strong chance when lacrosse can add some W's to the roster. 15 minutes? All right. All right. Rapid fire previews coming in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Cougar Spotlight Podcast, as we are going to end off the show today giving our brand new rapid fire previews. Here's what's going down in Caldwell Athletics to kick things off. Let's start off with softball. Softball's got a week-long Florida trip as they will head down to Florida as they'll be taking on Nova Southeastern, Barry University, Kutztown University, Rollins College, and the University of Tampa all throughout the week. I really do like softball. I felt like last season was a little bit of a disappointing year as there was a lot of talent on that roster. It just didn't seem like maybe the chemistry wasn't gelling. I've had the chance to look at this team. They're gelling. They got some studs returning. There's a lot of great veteran presence there. Obviously, in the very first episode, I spoke with Brooke Martin about this. She's back. You got Jess Klein in the outfield as well. Ashley Tavasquez, unbelievable. You've got great play. Your aces are all there. I think softball is going to have a great bounce-back season. And I think if they could get off to a really hot start in Florida, I think softball is going to be in a really good position. Baseball, as I previously just stated, they're going to be having the College of Staten Island in 3 games this weekend. They'll be away today on Friday, and they're home for a doubleheader on Saturday. Last time baseball played College of Staten Island, Caldwell won 7-3 and 5-3. So the Cougars certainly have a little bit of Staten Island's number. Don't count it out, though. I think we're going to have to see a little bit of some upgrading coming from the bullpen. I think if the Cougars can keep the momentum from their previous outing on Thursday against Queens, you can look out. They were really putting the bat to the ball very, very well. Again, 2 homers came in that game, putting up 11 runs. So far, the largest run total of the season, potentially could be throughout the year. So I'm excited to see what baseball's going to do. I'll be on the call for the first game of the doubleheader on Saturday. Men's lacrosse will be taking on Roberts Wesleyan at home on Saturday. Men's lacrosse, the story of this team has been freshman Nico Fasoli. He's been terrific, as he's currently tied with Zachary Glatfelter for the leading scorer, as Fasoli scored his first collegiate goal in his very first game. Men's lacrosse, they've been plagued with some injuries early on, but I think men's lax has been doing some really, really good things. They're proving that they can play. And this has been a tough year, as last season with the amount of seniors that they lost, particularly on the defensive end. I think lacrosse has kind of struggled in this early out of the season. But they're getting better. They're figuring out lineups. And I think men's lacrosse, you got the chance. You got the chance to really do some good damage against Wesleyan on Saturday. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what men's lacrosse is doing. That game, I believe, opens up at 11 o'clock on Saturday at Kiwanis Oval. And then women's lacrosse, they'll be home on Sunday as they take on Holy Family. And they just came off a heartbreaking loss on Thursday against St. Thomas Aquinas. It was a cold one, I can tell you, in the booth. It was a cold, cold night at Kiwanis Oval. But they are playing absolutely incredible. Multiple players, multiple goals in that game. They kept it close, and they were down pretty big at one point, and they just kept firing back. The fire that we saw from that women's roster, particularly in that second half, that energy boost, when they came out of the halftime, it was like a completely different team. They're flying around defensively, causing turnovers, getting saves. I genuinely said this. If that game had an extra 5 minutes to it, there's a very strong chance Caldwell could have walked away with the win. They very much could. If they keep that energy that they had in the second half and they transition it throughout the end of the season, you're getting players like Zapata who's getting multiple goals. Your defense was stepping up big. I think there's a very strong chance Women's lacrosse can add some W's to the roster. And that is all for now. The other big thing going on is on Tuesday, Acrobatics and Tumbling will be hosting their senior night against American International College at the Newman Center. I'm excited. I'll be in the booth for that one. It's going to be very, very fun. Acro is always such a fun sport to call, so I can't wait to see what Acro is going to be coming up with. And that is all for the Cougar Spotlight podcast today. Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of Caldwell Athletics and Communication and Media Studies, we want to personally thank you all so much for watching Cougar Spotlight Podcast. It's been a pleasure. 3 episodes in. We're not stopping anytime soon. You can access these episodes on the CACC Network, and you can watch them on YouTube as well. Make sure you follow Caldwell Athletics on all of the social media pages so you never miss an update on when shows are being released. I'm Nick Iacovo. Thank you all so much. Happy March to everyone, and take care.